I want to talk to you about Montefiore and their disrespect for people's HIPAA rights. On many occasions, when I've gone to Montefiore for the numerous appointments they milk Medicaid for, they have a very bad habit of doing something. They ask you out loud and in front of many people what your name, date of birth, and address is. And many times you're in places where you have what I see as being nefarious people. The other day, I went to Montefiore to see a new PCP. This PCP refused to fill out any of the paperwork for FEGS. So Montefiore should not be allowed to participate in FEGS. And in my opinion, they shouldn't be allowed to participate in Medicaid, in the Medicaid program. Because what they did to me on a number of occasions is just plain wrong. Here you have, these doctors with Obamacare are going to be so overwhelmed. They don't know if they're coming or going, let alone give people good health care. And in my opinion, no health care is better than bad health care. And the poor middle class taxpayer is paying for all this. This is somebody else's medical records that were given to me by accident. And it happened over at 2300 Westchester Avenue. I'm not sure if that's the exact address, but it's by Westchester Avenue near Parker Street, where Social Security is. Here you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, this is the person's prescriptions, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 pages of somebody else's medical records that were given to me by accident. And the only reason I caught on is because when I was going to the useless behavioral health center at Glebe Avenue for help with anxiety and depression, which actually they caused more anxiety and depression, I told the caseworker about this, but I discovered it by accident when I was handing her medical records to look at, and I kind of looked down at them. I was saying, wait a minute, I don't have any of these medical problems. And I realized they had given me somebody else's medical records. So I am appealing to our elected officials to rethink all these urgent cares, because it's impossible to give somebody good health care when you're overworked. And as you know, my story is pretty famous. I was working at Lawrence Hospital as a hospital operator, and I was working a 12-hour shift with no lunch and no breaks, doing other people's jobs, pulling medical records, and sometimes even doing security. And Senator Jeff Klein did not do anything to protect my labor rights. Nobody should have to work a 12-hour shift with no lunch and no breaks, unable to go to the bathroom when needed. There was at no point I could never choose to not do my job. I was calling the codes, and there was not a code alarm in the bathroom that we used to use that was around the bend and down the hall from my office. So we need to really get diligent about health care in this country, and it not just be a way to milk Medicaid, because it's really sad that we have no rights as poor people. It's always the poor people that are the ones that are being taken advantage of, and someone's getting rich on us. Jeff Klein, Senator Jeff Klein, who's a turncoat, and he really doesn't deserve to be reelected. He don't deserve your votes. He could have at any time subpoenaed the security cameras that would have shown me working a 12-hour shift with no breaks and lunch. He could have subpoenaed eyewitnesses, the security guards. Part of the nine months of the year and a half I worked there, I was also working through an illegal abatement and construction job that got me sick. I filled out a workman's comp form, went into our ER because I was having problems with my throat because there was all dust coming into our office from the abatement job. These people were working at night under the cloak of darkness, and first of all, they never had record of an abatement job. And if you check, this is why I want Preet Bharara to check my phone records, because when this was going on, Jeff could have sent in inspectors. Abatement, it's a serious thing. And, I've heard firemen complaining that they were exposed. He could have sent in inspectors at any time. He could have done a number of things. He's a state senator. If he don't have the power to do so, I don't know who does. And to this day, I have troubles with my throat, and I'm a licensed tour guide. So, the other thing is how Montefiore milks Medicaid. It's one appointment after another, and they're not really doing anything to help me. And they've also let my 88-year-old doctor continue to practice medicine after I told him that there was a problem with him and he was making mistakes on the prescriptions. He did this 3 times. And I have told caseworkers over at Glebe and a number of other doctors, and they keep protecting him. There's also issues up there with their gynecological clinic on 233rd Street. And these doctors are choosing not to remove women's ovarian cysts and fibroids. And this is stuff that leads to ovarian cancer. Another thing Montefiore did is, it clearly states in my medical records, the radiologist reports, that I needed additional imaging on a breast. I have 2 masses on a breast, and I need an MRI for my back. It says it right on their radiology reports, but they refuse to give it to me. You wouldn't have to be sending me to FEGS and all these countless appointments that the New York State taxpayers are paying for if you just gave me a damn MRI on my back, and that would be that. But instead, they're going to keep milking this. This has been going on for years now. And my SSI case is pending. I have no lawyer that'll help me with this. I need a disability advocate. So please help and get on board, taxpayers, women. If you have a vagina, you should be worried about this stuff. So let's do something about this instead of making me rant and rave on Twitter and on blogs and calling elected officials to no avail. We could do this. It's the people that run the government and elect. You work for us, elected officials, and I think you've lost sight of that. And this is why America is in a sad, sad way. And Obamacare is gonna break this country. I already see so many warning signs that aren't being addressed, and I have called Congressman Crowley's office. I've written to Preet Bharara about some of this stuff. And a lot of it, I'm sorry, has to do with medical fraud. You look at all these urgent care facilities that have popped up just on Morris Park alone, and I want to know what people's legal rights are. Who's going to be handling your medical records? What kind, are the people they're hiring vetted properly? Because a lot of these places seem to me to be nefarious. And you also have a lot of pharmacies popping up here. And the DEA should be looking into, maybe these places are little mini pill mills. Not all of them are on a scale of, like we saw just recently, the big OxyContin bust. A lot of these are on smaller scales. You know, you have a few goons that get prescription from some crooked doctors, and they go into these places and, you know, they're getting $6,000 worth of OxyContin on the street every, you know, couple of weeks, and it's a lucrative business. And meanwhile, Medicaid doctors refuse to give anybody on Medicaid any pain medication. So you have to be out there and suffer. They've also refused. I mean, I was asking for help with anxiety and depression since November, and I just keep getting kicked from pillar to post. So come on, let's be diligent, people. Let's get on board. And Mr. Montalvo should really contact a lawyer, because his HIPAA rights were really seriously violated. And, you know, it's time to do something about it and stop catering to big medicine.